What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Let's Ask Paul, the podcast where you get to ask me, Paul Abernathy, anything you want about the National Electrical Code and all things electrically related. Hey, thanks for joining me on this podcast. Again, I want to send a shout out to everybody. I just got the numbers. I came back from the NFPA meeting. I think it was over 70-some thousand downloads the last week of our podcasts. Hey, guys, it does fluctuate because, again, when we do our podcast totals, it's across all of our platforms. Our unique downloads from our videos, from our podcasts, from our different episodes, from our remember, we have over 1,000 plus episodes, so they add up. And somebody listens, you know, if each episode gets 10 listeners or 10 unique listens, then it adds up pretty quickly. So we want to thank everybody out there for listening to our podcasts. And remember, you can get access to our podcasts on any of your favorite podcast listening platforms, whether it's Spotify, Spreaker, Deezer, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Audible, Amazon Music. All you got to do is search for it. So if you want to find our Master the NEC podcast, that's our most popular. It's Master the NEC podcast, and go searching for it. I listen to mine all the time on my Alexa device using Spotify, and you can listen to all the episodes there. Or you can go for our Let's Ask Paul podcast, which is what we're doing today, and that is basically search for Let's Ask Paul podcast. And then, of course, our latest podcast is the Bond and Ground podcast, where I talk about grounding and bonding and try to dispel all these myths that people have. So much misconceptions and misunderstandings about grounding and bonding that it just begged to have its own unique podcast. So make sure you check those out. Look, if you want to find an easy way to do this, just go get our free mobile app. It's free. It doesn't cost you a dime. We're not going to try to push anything down your throat. If you're a Mike Holt subscriber, I love Mike. He does great things. Ryan Jackson. Look, I'm not trying to compete with anybody. We offer courses. They offer courses. You know what? It's all good for the industry. Everybody. I am never against other educators. Okay. I think all of us are good for the industry. Some people listen to other people differently than others, and some people like a style that one person gives over the other. I think it's great. I promote Mike. I promote Ryan. I promote all kinds of educators. So please don't get me wrong. I appreciate you folks listening to my flavor of delivery, but I encourage you to check theirs out as well. But you can get our free mobile app that's over on our website. It's easy to find. It's in the navigation. I won't load any bloatware into your phone. I promise you, it will only put a link on your phone. It will not download software on your phone. It will ask you permissions in case you want to get a notification of some kind of new change in the code or some kind of announcement. But at the end of the day, we're not putting anything on your phone. Now, in that mobile app, you got calculators, in the field calculators, voltage drop calculators, raceway field calculators. You have all these great calculators, but you also have blogs. You get access to our podcasts. You get access to chat features, which are only for people that have the mobile app, which means that you can attach a picture to a question in the field, and it's only going to be viewable by those that have the mobile app, so it's not open to everybody. It's a great platform, and it's free. It doesn't cost you a dime to join it. And so check that out over on Fast Tracks System. That's TRAX, by the way, Fast Tracks System, all one word, .com, and you can get that mobile app. It's cloud-based. All it does is put a link on your phone. Why do we do that? Because I don't believe in putting crap in your phone. I believe that you don't need to go to the Apple Store or the Google Store, Play Store. I think that we should be able to push updates to you freely without having to get into your phone and make you update something every few weeks or months. I just don't believe in it, okay? So anyway, check that out and get that mobile app, because in there you can listen to the podcast, all three of the podcasts. You can click it and it'll take you right to this unique player, and you can stream it on any of your Bluetooth devices. It's awesome. In your car, while you're riding down the road, on the job site, in your earbuds, whatever you want to listen, we got you covered. Okay. Also, there's descriptions of the different episodes, so you can kind of scroll through them. There's a lot of them, folks. So all different types of topics that you may find interesting. Okay. So anyway, today on the Let's Ask Paul, I got a great question that was submitted. And I like this question because, and this one, Darlene kind of sifted this to me early. I've got a bunch of them I got to catch up with, but this one was sifted to me early because it was from a gentleman that is preparing for an exam, and he's really working on his calculations. And he sends me good questions that probably that he would have learned if he was in our program. Ironically, he is not in our Fast Tracks program. So that just goes to show you that I answer questions for people, whether or not you're buy our courses or don't. I'm here to help you. Okay, you can be a hater if you want. You can go over onto some of these other forums and trash me if you want, but you can look yourself in the mirror and say, do you do as much for the industry as Paul does? Whether it's answering code questions, putting out products, making courses, doing free videos, all those type of things. Do you do it? But anyway, I digress. Let's go on and get into the question, because this is going to be a nice little question for us to dissect. So I understand you're driving. I understand that you're listening, and I got to try to paint you this mental picture because that's the whole concept. And that's why I enjoy podcasting. It's my number one platform. I love videos. I love doing training videos. I love doing all, but let me tell you what, podcasting is, when I started doing this, God, nearly 20 years ago, before it was even called podcasting, recording episodes, I love it because it forces me to paint a mental picture for you. That's why I love doing it. It's a challenge for me. Okay. It's not just where I sit here and have 2 or 3 people in the room and we try to have a banter back and forth and you just listen in. I get it. There's a place for those type of podcasts. It's not what I do. Now, I do have those interviews and I do those things, but I like to do lessons in my podcast or explain things. It's between me and you. It's very personal. And I try to paint this mental picture. That's important for me. Paint a mental picture for the individual so that at the end of the day, I'm locking something in their mind. So let me read this question and we'll discuss it. And I'll explain how this can be confusing for many people. Here's the question. It says, "Good morning, Paul. I hope you're having a good time in Vegas, but I have a question." Now, this is a question that obviously came from a code database. I can tell you this individual is not in our Fast Tracks program. So that just, again, goes to show you I answer questions for anybody. He goes, "The maximum size of a circuit breaker that can be installed for 1 AWG THW feeder tap conductors is blank amps." Let me read that again because I understand, and you can pause and listen later or whatnot. The question is a maximum size circuit breaker that can be installed for a 1 AWG THW feeder tap conductor is blank amperes. Now, focusing on the question. Remember I tell you, dissect the question. Dissect, dissect, dissect. You got to get used to doing that. The answer here is, hey, Paul, what size breaker do I need for a feeder tap conductor? And I already have a 1 AWG THW. What breaker can I put on that? Okay. All right. So you're saying, okay, well, the maximum size circuit breaker for this application, okay, we'll look at it. So it's a 1 gauge. We already know what it is, 1 gauge. Now, what is the ampacity of a 1 gauge? Well, since it's THW, we're going to be in the 75-degree column. And under the 75-degree column, a 1 gauge copper, always assume copper unless stated otherwise, is going to be good for 130 amps, right? Now, that is obviously over 100 amps, so 60 amps doesn't even come into the 60-degree column, won't even come into the table, 110.14c. We're going to stay in the 75-degree column. We also are not doing any adjustment or correction, so we're not going to go to the 90-degree column. We're going to stay right here in the 75-degree column. So it's good for 130 amps. Okay, so that's what this conductor is good for. So the answers that are given here, you have 4 answers. It says A is 100 amps, B is 110, C is 125, and D is 150. Okay. Now, he goes on to say the answer they give, and we'll go on and spill the beans here. The answer they give on the exam prep question that he has is 125 amperes. Okay. So that's what they give, 125 amperes. And he goes, that doesn't make sense because the wire is rated for 130 amps on the 75-degree table. So that's his question. Okay. So that's the question that is on the table. And so what we want to do is say, okay, well, let me help you out here. First of all, you said it was a tap conductor. So it tells me it's tapping off of a feeder. And it doesn't give a length, so we will assume, people say, well, I hate to assume. Well, you can't assume it's over 10 feet if it just says it's a tap conductor, so we'll go with the baseline, and the baseline is 10 feet. If it doesn't say over 10, then you got to go, then it's got to be the baseline. If it's a tap conductor, whether it's 6 inches, 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, that's the general rule. It's going to be obviously the 10-foot rule. If they intended it, well, it could be the over 10 foot. Well, it doesn't say that. It just says a tap conductor. So we have to go with the baseline. The baseline is going to be up to 10 feet. So that's the tap rule, okay? So when you're thinking about feeder taps, we obviously want to look at 240.21b for feeder taps. Now, the first thing that we're going to notice when we're looking at 240.21b is that there's a little statement in there that says that you cannot use the next size up rule. All right, so you're not allowed to use, in 240.21b, it'll tell you, guess what? I can't use the next size up. So that's the first thing we have to remember. No next size up rule. So this conductor is good for 130 amps. We got you. Next, we have to look at 240.21b11b, and that kind of depicts the ampacity of that tap conductor, and it says, pretty much, I'll just paraphrase it. In this scenario, the key target here is that it shall not be less than the rating of the overcurrent protected device. Okay. Well, in your mind, you're saying, well, okay, well, it's a 130 amp rated conductor, then I need a 130 amp rated overcurrent device. Well, then if you go look at 240.6a, guess what? There isn't a 130 amp overcurrent protected device. So, and again, we know that we can't use the next size up rule because it says it right there in 240.21b. It reminds us we cannot use the next size up rule in 240.4b. We cannot jump it up. Okay. So when I go look at 240.6a, and I look at 240.6a, and I look at the standard list of overcurrent protected devices that are given. And when I look at this list, I see a 125, and then it jumps to a 150. And you say, well, the conductor is good for 130 amps. Yeah, but you got to remember what it says in 240.21b11b. And so when you go look at that, you remind yourself, you go, okay, I'll go look at that. And it says the ampacity of the tap conductor is as follows. Not less than the rating of the equipment containing an overcurrent device supplied by the tap conductor, or, remember the or, folks, power of or. It's not and, it's or, this or that. It says or not less than the rating of the overcurrent protected device at the termination of the tap conductor. So in this case, we don't have a 130 amp rated overcurrent device. We have a 125. So could I possibly get a non-standard type overcurrent device? Maybe there's one for 130? Yes, but that's not based on the question. The question gave you 4 answers. You have to choose one. So in this case, we couldn't use the 150 because that would be obviously over the 130. We can't use the next size up rule in 240.4b because it told us we couldn't do that, right? In 240.21b, in the last sentence, it says section 240.4b shall not be permitted for the tap conductor. So since we can't use the 150, and obviously the other ones are irrelevant, the 110 and 100 is not going to play a role here, we are forced to use the 125. So that's why that is the maximum size, because there isn't a 130. And there isn't one in the choices. Now, you could say in the real world, well, I can go find me a 130. Well, that's not the question. That is not, when you're answering a code question, and I get there's a lot of people out there that go, well, I would use a 130. I'd go find a 130. Shut up. This is an exam prep question. You have to answer it based on what they give you. Stop trying to, if I had to give advice to people out there when it comes to preparing for an electrical exam, don't go in there with the knowledge that you have in the field. Go in there with the knowledge that you're going to answer it based on what they ask you, and that's it. Don't say, well, that's not how I would do it, or it doesn't matter how you would do it. You have to do it based on the NEC and based on how they present the question. And in this case, they only gave 4 answers: 100, 110, 125, and 150. Well, you know it can't be 150 because you can't use an excise up allowance. The conductor's only good for 130, so I'm not going to terminate on a 150. Okay? So the only logical answer was 125. Okay? So obviously I'm not going to use 110 or 100. I'm not going to, it's like getting that's like getting a bag of chips with nothing but 50% of air in it. Okay? That's a waste. Yeah, it happens, but it's a waste. I want to get as much as I can out of it. Well, they don't make an overcurrent device that's rated 130. That is a standard size. It's in the standard list of 240.6A. So the logical answer here is the maximum size based on all these rules that I just threw out at you, that it's going to be 125. So the answer is 125. Even though that conductor is rated for 130, the overcurrent device in this case for this tap is going to be 125. And that means you have to understand your loads. You have to understand these rules and make sure that you've actually done a load calculation so that you know that these tap conductors are going to be able to handle specific loads, that type of thing. And it's probably going to terminate, be honest with you, in a 125 device. Probably going to be a 125 panel, be honest with you. The conductor is going to be good for 130. That's fine. 5 amps to spare, if you will. But at the end of the day, perfectly acceptable. And so 125 is your answer here. And that explains how we got that answer. Okay. All right. A fairly short podcast today. I'm just kind of getting my boots back in, settled in here back in the office. Been away for a couple of days out at the Knit Mams out in Vegas. It was a great time, great people. Got to have breakfast with Mike Holt. We had a great conversation. Brian House works for him, and Mario Valdez. Great guys, represent Mike Holt and them very well. Great gentlemen. We had a great breakfast. It was a great fellowship. I appreciate Mike for doing that. And again, everybody out there, Ryan Jackson, everybody that I saw out there, great to see you all. Vince Delacroix, saw you. Didn't get a chance to talk a lot to you because you were busy little beaver. But again, saw a bunch of you out there. Was able to catch up with my counterparts with the other wiring cable manufacturers to say, hey, what's up? And it was just a great time. And the next time you will catch me at an event will be at the NECA. I will be at the NECA in Chicago. So if you'd love to catch up with me, come on out to the NECA. You really do need to come if you've never been to a NECA before. You get to go around and look at the new stuff from the manufacturers, put your hands on stuff, ask those technical questions of different products. That's a great time. It's really, and a lot of those social media people that do their little videos, they call them influencer. I can't stand that term, but they'll be out there and you can say hey to them if you want. It's just a good time. And the NECA events are always great. So every electrician should at least attend one. And this year it's in Chicago. Don't ask me for the date. Google it online. NECA, N-E-C-A 2025 convention. And it's in Chicago, so that'll give you a hint where it's at when you go looking online. And I encourage you to visit. Spend a day or two. It's usually huge. You're going to have to take a day or two to really absorb all of the manufacturers. I'm going to be at the Prismium Encore Wire booth, answering technical questions and signing your code books if you want it or whatever you want. I'll be there. Ask me anything you want, and I'll be at the show every day of the NECA event. So I look forward to seeing you there. All right, folks. Till next time, stay safe. God bless, and we'll catch you on another episode of Let's Ask Paul, the podcast where you get to ask me anything you want about the National Electrical Code.